The Grace Cathedral Choir in San Francisco was singing Amazing Grace as Charles Mackenzie Taylor stood at his father's funeral, letting his thoughts drift to the familiar music. It was a beautiful, warm June day. His father, Patrick Taylor, had been a fierce and bold leader, greatly respected in the community, head of Golden State Bank, which his own grandfather had founded, and which 3 generations of Taylor men had owned and run. It had been one of the largest commercial banks in California since the gold rush days. Patrick had died at 85 after a year-long bout with cancer. He was a force to be reckoned with, and a hard man to please. He had continued to go to the office until his last few months, and the bank was officially run by a highly experienced CEO and a competent staff, overseen by a board of directors of which Patrick had been chairman. Charles was Patrick's only child, brilliant in his own right, with no interest whatsoever in the family bank or the world of finance, unlike all his male ancestors before him. He would be the first Taylor heir who would never run the bank. Although out of a sense of duty and a recent promise to his father, he had agreed to step into his father's shoes as chairman of the board, which he dreaded. Several members of the board were close to his father's age, had conservative, antiquated ideas, and took rigid positions on most things, and Charles found them as difficult to get along with as his father had been. The rest of the board were CEOs of large companies, leaders of the financial community, and included 2 women, one of whom was the widow of one of their largest investment clients, and the other of whom ran a hedge fund. They all had the right credentials, very little imagination, if any, and no desire to do anything innovative. Charles felt as though he couldn't breathe whenever he walked into his father's office. They had never gotten along. It was no secret that Patrick had never approved of him, and now Charles had to run the board. At 49, Charles had been a renegade all his life, with a passion for new ideas and an unfailing instinct for the needs and trends of the future. Despite the trust he had been left by his grandparents and his father, he had made his own fortune doing what he loved, starting new businesses. His education had been almost identical to his father's, but Charlie had done entirely different things with his. He had attended Princeton as an undergraduate, then Harvard Business School in the entrepreneurial program, which Patrick said was unnecessary with a bank to run. Charlie had started to build his future as a junior at Princeton, when he created a delivery service for fellow students, bringing them everything from food to medicine and pharmaceutical needs, including industrial quantities of condoms, and eventually branching out to deliver everything from mattresses to office equipment. He expanded his business model through friends at other universities, and eventually had nearly 100 branches throughout the United States. He sold the business for what even his father considered an astounding amount of money. It was one of the earliest and most successful startups, and set the bar high for others who followed in his footsteps with their own startups. The concept was simple, and it worked. During the years he was growing the business, Charlie's father referred to him as the delivery boy, and was furious when the business kept Charlie from taking his place at the bank, and gave him an excuse not to.